Is it okay? Great. I just need to put this somewhere too. I can hold on to. So yes, I have already said that we have two different things that we are celebrating. We have a project called Muse IT with many different partners. And in fact, between the partners and the people who are here, either in person or online, we have that many countries represented. So it's thank you everyone, and especially online people who are here today. So I will tell you a little bit about our different in a minute. Yes. So I will tell you a little bit about the background of how Include came about and the core activities in the center, and also some of the related projects that we have. So information, accessibility, inclusion, and participation is very important in many different respects. And if you are familiar with different legal and international guidelines, you will find that there are many such guidelines that we should comply to. For example, the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights talks about human rights in all areas for all people to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media, the right to education, the right to freely participate in cultural life, and to enjoy the arts. So all of these are issues that we will deal with both in the center and also in our upcoming project, or the project that started this month, first of this month. And also, if you look at the European level, the same rights have been closely mirrored. And also you can find the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability. And again, you can see things like, for example, accessibility, accessible information, communication, both the actual information, but the systems that convey them, infrastructure, and cultural life, enjoy access to cultural materials and in accessible formats, places for cultural performance and services. So these are the sort of things that we are working towards to make happen. And if you wonder, there aren't really very good statistics on the number of people with disabilities. There are no very good way of counting, but there are some estimation, like for example, the World Bank, they estimate that 1 billion people, or 15% of the world's population, experience some form of disability. And of these, they say that 1/5 of them, or equal to 110 to 190 million people, experience significant disabilities. And in our previous project, Suitcase, which actually gave rise to creating all of these things, we work with people with deafblindness. And you might think, how many people actually can be deafblind? And in fact, we were surprised to find that the numbers are a lot more than one thinks. And according to the World Federation of the Deafblind, 0.2 to 2% of the population live with some sort of visual and hearing impairments combined. So yes, the background, and you've heard some of you who were here this morning, was Suitcase. It was a EU Horizon 2020 project that was 2018 and finished last year. And we were 7 partners, and some of them are actually present here, and we heard from them this morning, and maybe we hear later today. And in Suitcase, we addressed 3 different challenges. One was to scan the environment and see what's happening around us, so perception of the environment. So a person with deafblindness, how do they know what is around them? So that was our first ambition. The second one was, okay, once we have scanned the environment and we know what's what, and we have some coffee next to you and so many people in front of you, how do you convey this information to the person? And our solution to that was smart textiles and some vest and use of social haptic communication signs, and we emulated them to vibrotactile actuation patterns. And then finally, we thought that, okay, once we have a complicated system, maybe we should have some easy learning facilities. So we thought of gamification, but in fact, we thought that we could create fun for people to actually experience life themselves. So these are some of the prototypes that came out of that project. So you can see we had things on the chairs, and we had in the vest, and we had things at the beginning, at the top, you can see that fits everyone for experimentation. And this was the final thing that has got everything. So sensors, cameras, and within it, it has actuators, and it's embedded. So then, based on the work there, we started the Include Center, which again has the same ambitions of inclusion, participation, accessibility, and equality. You can see our website and read more about it. But we have different aspects in the center. We have research, and our research would adopt a critical perspective and examine different things. So for example, if you look at the second line, it says the studies will not involve a study of bodily attributes, but rather the social conditions at the root of such attributes becoming a differentiating factor in how people are treated. So we designed the world for a certain type of people, but we forget some other people. Why? So why don't we design a world to fit everyone? So that's some of the research we will do. We will create innovations, and we actually have a haptic lab that we are developing further. We will conduct some policy studies, and we did that in Suitcase as well. Our colleagues from Leeds did an extensive study in 5 different countries, and we will continue with that work. And we also want to raise awareness and share information and knowledge. So we organize events such as this one. So this is what we are doing. So we have different things associated to the center. So the Muse IT is one of the projects that we are doing connected to the Muse IT Center. And it's a 3-year project and started the beginning of this month and will continue until 2025. We are 11 partners, and we have a budget of over 4 million. And so it proposes technologies that facilitate and widen access to cultural assets and help preserve and safeguard cultural heritage in an inclusive way. So we are 11 partners that we are participating in this. Some of them are here. Many of them will be here for the next 2 days for our kickoff project. So we have 9 countries from the European Union. We also have the Great Britain, and we have also US represented by the Stanford University. We are addressing 3 different challenges again in Muse IT. First is accessibility of cultural assets. So we are using multi-sensory representation of cultural assets to make them accessible to anyone, rather than saying we fixed this problem for you and this group. We are doing it so that anyone can interact with them in their own way. Then we are creating a platform to enable co-creation and performance from distance. And especially when it comes to, for example, music, you know that it has to be very tightly timed. So latency is a problem. And that's where our colleagues from Stanford have got a technology already that reduces latency, and we will build on that. And then finally, we are going to create inclusive repositories. And for that, we want to be able to include all type of content. We want to make the content available to anyone. And we also are looking at, for example, preservation of haptic data, which is not usually, we don't have metadata, and thanks for that, so we are going to create that as well. Now I invite my colleague Krishna to come here, and he was a great help in developing a proposal for us, and he will be an advisor to the Muse IT. So I let him tell you a little bit more about what we are going to do.
Thanks, Nasrine, and thanks everyone. First of all, a huge thanks and huge congratulations for the Muse IT team for putting together a very, very competitive and successful bid. And my 5 cents on where I first time encountered the disabilities, or let's say the people suffering from disability, not able to engage in a wider society, which is quite what has a long history. But more importantly, when he talks about cultural heritage, what is it that they really feel, and how does this impact? We all have seen the last 2 years of pandemic, and we can all appreciate some of the challenges that we have to undergo, where we are all used to the Zoom, the Teams, the online booking systems, everything. This has fundamentally changed everything. The digital divide between what we are able to implicitly assume people can engage with and people who really suffer with digital interfaces, and the lack of inclusiveness and accessibility solutions incorporated within those digital platforms does create a barrier. And my first experience was when I wanted to go to a national museum in UK, couldn't do it, or had some difficulties, had some challenges. And I am perfectly able, or at least I believe I'm able, and I had difficulties. And that's the first instinct of, if you really want to understand someone's challenges, try to put yourself in those shoes. That again originated with this whole conceptual design. Without going into a lot of technical details, which I will believe will be taking place for the next 2 days, on the left-hand side, you will see content. And what Muse IT will probably aim to do is also to look at both tangible, intangible content, and that is also reflected in the archives, in the repositories that we wanted to identify. Tangible content, paintings, structures, sculptures, archaeological sites, whatever else that we can consider to be made more accessible. Can we explain how this painting looks like? How can you tell? How can you describe a painting for a person who couldn't see? And what about the music? Music has a huge role to play in our society. And can we bring together music as a form of experience for other communities? So that's where we start. And then we go through a big list of process where we talk about the societal engagement, the participatory approach, and also understand what are the different modes of sensory elements that we can propose. And we already saw some amazing demos from Suitcase, where the sense of touch was already an instigator of technology development. But can we go further? If you want to explain more about cultural heritage artifacts, cultural heritage engagement, what else can be done? That feeds into the, I don't know if you can see, but it's about the eyes, the ears, and the hands, which is very similar to what we just discussed. And then feeding that into a more co-creative environment. And I believe Nigel and Sophia may be able to share more information about how this is being done. Does your sensory organs or sensory interaction limit you in a musical capacity, or limit you experiencing creating of music or creation of music? Can we also change the way the music is being displayed? Can you create haptics, or can we do something more to explain voice, explain sounds, explain music? So there are several challenges that are being considered. And at the end of the day, everything else goes back to the stakeholders. And we have already identified 3 stakeholders. So a big challenge ahead for the next 3 years, starting from this month. And hopefully there will be an amazing success to be reached at the end. At every stage, we were really wanted to have a close engagement with the community, because if you want to develop something, you always need to understand the people to whom you develop. And that's where the collaboration really would play a key role. And with this approach of iterative process, we believe there will be a huge opportunity to understand the challenges, to really understand and adopt a user-centric model. And you develop technology not for yourself, not for someone who you know, but for some entities or some human being who may have much different challenges in life than what we normally comprehend. There will be 2 pilots for experiencing or for demonstrating. It's great to say a lot of words, but at the end of the day, what the project can deliver to the end users. How can we engage them? how can they feel a part of the broader society, how they interact with cultural heritage artifacts. And I think that's the testament to what we can develop, how we develop digital solutions for a more inclusive society. And second is the co-creation part. And this will be a big topic, especially as Nasrine said, Stanford University has already developed some platforms. There'll be new opportunities to be further engaged in the project itself. I think that's all. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we have more results in the future.
So before we finish, it's very important to thank everyone who has supported us, and of course our university and my department, the Swedish School of Library and Information Science, supports us providing resource to the Include Center. And then, of course, the Muse IT is a Horizon Europe project and has been co-funded by European Commission. And then this symposium is organized and the funding has been received from the Swedish Research Council for Health, Working, Life and Welfare, Forte. So we thank you all, and without all of this help, none of this research that we are doing and exciting things that we are doing would be possible. Now I want to say that we had a similar symposium at the start of Suitcase, and we actually had some cakes to celebrate that. And guess what? We have cakes now too. So we will have some cakes now. We will have a short break, even though it's not time for break. You can please take them and come to your seat, and then we start with the rest of the talks. Thank you, everyone.